I still remember the first time I saw her. It was a crisp autumn evening, the air filled with the scent of falling leaves and the distant hum of city life. The cafe on the corner, our favorite haunt, was bustling with its usual crowd. I had just moved to the city for a new job, eager to start a fresh chapter in my life. As I sipped my coffee and stared out the window, my eyes met hers. Julia. She was sitting across the room, engrossed in a book, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders. There was something about her that drew me in. Maybe it was the way she seemed so absorbed in her world, or the occasional smile that danced on her lips as she read. I couldn't help but stare, captivated by her presence. It took me several days of frequent visits to the cafe before I mustered the courage to approach her. I had noticed she always ordered the same drink, a vanilla latte, and took the same seat by the window. It became a ritual for me to sit nearby, hoping for a chance to strike up a conversation. Eventually, our eyes met again, and this time, I smiled. To my surprise, she smiled back. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. She looked up, her eyes studying me for a moment before nodding. "Sure. Why not?" I introduced myself, and we started talking. She told me she was a graphic designer, passionate about her work, and loved the city's vibrant energy. I shared my story, how I had moved here for a job in finance and was still adjusting to the fast-paced lifestyle. We bonded over our mutual love for art and coffee, and before I knew it, we were meeting regularly. As the weeks passed, our conversations grew deeper. We talked about our dreams, our fears, and our pasts. Julia had a magnetic charm, a way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. Her laughter was infectious, and her touch sent shivers down my spine. I was falling for her, hard and fast. Our relationship blossomed quickly. Within months, we were inseparable, spending every free moment together. We explored the city, went on weekend getaways, and met each other's families. Julia's parents were warm and welcoming, and they seemed genuinely happy for us. My parents, too, adored her, often remarking on how perfect we were for each other. It wasn't long before I realized I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I began planning the proposal, wanting it to be perfect. I chose a secluded spot in the park where we often took long walks, a place filled with memories of our time together. On a sunny afternoon, as we strolled hand in hand, I led her to our favorite bench. My heart pounded as I knelt before her, pulling out the ring I had carefully chosen. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment, I feared she might say no. "Julia," I began, my voice trembling, "you are the love of my life. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes as she nodded. "Yes, 1,000 times yes!" I slipped the ring onto her finger, and she threw her arms around me, laughing and crying at the same time. We kissed, and I felt an overwhelming sense of joy and relief. I had found my soulmate, and we were going to spend our lives together. Our wedding was a beautiful affair, a celebration of our love surrounded by family and friends. We exchanged vows in a quaint chapel, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of our lives. The reception was held in a picturesque garden, filled with laughter, music, and dancing. As we swayed to our favorite song, I couldn't help but feel like the luckiest man in the world. Married life was everything I had hoped for, and more. We moved into a cozy apartment downtown, decorating it with pieces of art and memorabilia from our travels. Julia continued her work as a graphic designer, while I excelled in my job, earning promotions and accolades. We supported each other, celebrated each other's successes, and comforted each other in times of sorrow. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day. We shared our dreams and worked towards our goals, always with each other's best interests at heart. We traveled to exotic destinations, explored new hobbies, and built a life filled with love and laughter. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. A few years into our marriage, we decided it was time to expand our family. The idea of having children excited both of us, and we eagerly awaited the arrival of our first child. Julia's pregnancy was a joyous time, filled with anticipation and preparations for the baby's arrival. When our daughter, Emily, was born, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and responsibility. She was a beautiful bundle of joy, with Julia's dark hair and my blue eyes. We doted on her, marveling at every milestone and cherishing every moment. Parenthood brought us even closer, as we navigated the challenges and joys of raising a child. As Emily grew, we decided to have another child. Our son Liam was born 2 years later, completing our family. Life was hectic but fulfilling, with the pitter-patter of little feet filling our home with laughter and love. Julia and I worked as a team, balancing our careers and family life, always supporting each other. Despite our seemingly perfect life, subtle cracks began to appear in our relationship. Julia's job had become increasingly demanding, requiring her to work long hours and travel frequently. I too was busy with my career, often bringing work home and staying late at the office. The time we spent together grew less frequent, and our once lively conversations became mundane. I tried to ignore the growing distance between us, attributing it to the pressures of our busy lives. We still loved each other, and I believed we could weather any storm. But deep down, I sensed something was amiss. Julia seemed distant, her laughter less frequent, her smiles forced. I brushed it off, convinced that things would improve with time. It wasn't until our 10th anniversary that I began to feel truly uneasy. Julia seemed more distant than ever, and our connection felt strained. I suggested we take a vacation, just the two of us, to rekindle the romance. She agreed, and we planned a trip to the mountains, a place we had always loved. The vacation started off well, but as the days passed, the distance between us grew more apparent. We hiked and explored, but the conversations were forced, the laughter hollow. One evening, as we sat by the fire, I tried to talk to her about my concerns. "Julia, is everything okay?" I asked, my voice filled with worry. "You seem different, distant." She looked away, her expression unreadable. "I'm just stressed, David. Work has been overwhelming." I wanted to believe her, to trust that her explanation was the truth. But deep down, I felt a nagging doubt, a sense that there was more to her distance than just work. When we returned home, the distance between us persisted. Julia spent more time at the office, often coming home late and exhausted. I tried to be supportive, taking on more responsibilities with the kids and household chores. But no matter what I did, the gap between us seemed to widen. One evening, as I was putting Emily and Liam to bed, Emily asked me a question that caught me off guard. "Daddy, why is Mommy always at work? Doesn't she love us anymore?" Her innocent question pierced my heart. I reassured her, telling her that Mommy loved us very much and was just busy with work. But her words echoed in my mind, feeding the growing unease I felt. It was a rainy evening when my world came crashing down. Julia had been away on a business trip, and I was at home, trying to keep the kids entertained. As I tucked them into bed, Emily handed me Julia's tablet, saying she had forgotten it on the kitchen counter. I absent-mindedly turned it on, intending to check if there were any important messages she needed. What I found shattered my heart. There, in plain sight, were messages between Julia and another man. Flirty, intimate messages that left no doubt in my mind. My hands trembled as I read through them, feeling a wave of nausea wash over me. How could she? How could the woman I loved, the mother of my children, betray me like this? My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it all. I wanted to confront her, demand an explanation, but I knew I needed to stay calm for the kids' sake. I spent the night in turmoil, unable to sleep, my thoughts consumed by anger, hurt, and betrayal. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. When Julia returned the next day, I couldn't hold back any longer. I confronted her as soon as she walked through the door, my voice trembling with anger and pain. "How could you do this to me? To us?" I demanded, holding up the tablet. Her face paled as she realized what I had discovered. She stammered, trying to find the words, but there was no excuse that could erase the betrayal. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to hurt you." "How long?" I asked, my voice breaking. "How long has this been going on?" 6 months, she admitted, her eyes filled with remorse. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. 6 months of lies and deceit. 6 months of living a double life. I couldn't believe it. I felt like a fool, blind to the signs that had been right in front of me. The days that followed were a blur of emotions. Anger, sadness, confusion, and betrayal consumed me. I couldn't look at Julia without feeling a surge of pain and resentment. I tried to make sense of it all, to understand why she had done it, but there were no easy answers. Julia begged for forgiveness, promising to end the affair and work on our marriage. But the trust that had been shattered could not be easily repaired. Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal, the lies, and the broken promises. I knew I had to make a decision, not just for myself, but for our children. They deserved a stable and loving environment, and I wasn't sure if we could provide that anymore. After many sleepless nights and soul-searching, I realized I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies. With a heavy heart, I told Julia I wanted a divorce. It was one of the hardest decisions I had ever made, but I knew it was the right one. The life we had built together, the dreams we had shared, were now just painful reminders of what had been lost. The divorce process was grueling, filled with legal battles and emotional turmoil. We fought over custody, finances, and property, each trying to hold on to some semblance of our old life. But in the end, we reached an agreement that prioritized the well-being of our children. Julia moved out, and I stayed in the apartment with Emily and Liam. The once lively home now felt empty and cold. The laughter and love that had filled it were replaced by silence and sadness. I struggled to adjust to the new reality, to be both mother and father to my children. In the months that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I sought therapy to help cope with the pain and betrayal, and slowly, I began to heal. My relationship with Emily and Liam grew stronger as we navigated our new normal together. They were my anchor, my reason to keep moving forward. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, and I started to find peace. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the routine and stability it provided. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, building a support system that helped me through the darkest days. I realized that while the betrayal had shattered my world, it had also taught me valuable lessons. I learned the importance of trust, communication, and genuine love in a relationship. I understood the need to prioritize emotional connection over material gain, to cherish the people who truly mattered. Julia and I maintained a civil relationship for the sake of our children. We co-parented as best we could, putting aside our differences to ensure Emily and Liam's happiness. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. In time, I opened myself up to the possibility of love again. I met someone new, someone who valued honesty and emotional connection as much as I did. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was worth it. I found happiness again, not in the material possessions I had once thought were so important, but in the genuine love and connection I had with the people around me. Looking back, I realized that my journey through betrayal and heartbreak had made me stronger. It had taught me the true meaning of love and the importance of emotional connection over material gain. I had lost a part of myself in the process, but I had also found a new, stronger version of me. My children grew up in a home filled with love, not just from me, but from the extended family and friends who supported us. They learned the importance of honesty and trust, values I hoped would guide them in their own relationships. As for Julia, she too moved on with her life. We both found our own paths to happiness, separate but forever connected through our children. The pain of betrayal never fully disappeared, but it became a part of our past, a lesson learned and a chapter closed. In the end, I found peace and fulfillment not in the material possessions that once seemed so important, but in the genuine love and connections I had with the people who truly mattered. And that, I realized, was the true meaning of happiness.